All right. Hey, everybody. How are you? Did you guys have a good long weekend? Let me know. We had a great one. We got a lot done, and with the extra day, and had some good food, and just spent some time together and everything. So let me know how your weekend was. What did you do? So today we are talking about why we emotionally eat and how to put an end to it, how to stop it, how what can we do to start taking control of our emotional eating. Um, so if you're an emotional eater, today is for you. Um, I will be explaining one of the common reasons why people start emotionally eating. So we'll talk about that first and why it's hard to stop. And then we'll talk about some ways that you can stop doing it, that you can start practicing and putting into your lifestyle so that you can start getting control of your emotional eating if you feel like that's something that you need to do, if you feel like you are an emotional eater and that's like causing you issues, and you want to stop but you just don't know how. So today is for you if that sounds like you. Um, so give me a thumbs up in the comments if that sounds good to you. All right, guys. So for years, I was an emotional eater. And at the time, I didn't know it. So, and that may be familiar to you as well. Like maybe you're now realizing you're an emotional eater, but you didn't at first. You didn't when you first started. And now that you look back, you're like, I am an emotional eater. And so that was me. I was for years and I didn't know it. And that's really how my addiction to sugar started. And I would eat ice cream, I would eat cookies when I was stressed or upset. And that's just how I dealt with, um, stress, emotions, and things like that. And that's very common for a lot of us. And that's really how my addiction to sugar started, just by dealing with my emotions and my stress by eating. And it was sugar for me, but it could be anything, anything that you enjoy having. Um, you can emotionally eat anything. So, uh, like if I had a bad day, I would go home and eat sweets. And this routine started developing into a habit, and I found myself needing more and more sugar to satisfy my craving for it. So it started as emotional eating, but it ended up I ended up creating a habit and then an addiction. So it was kind of like phases, Um, emotional eating turned into a habit, the habit turned into addiction, and then before I knew it, I wasn't just wanting it at night when I got home. I was wanting it all throughout the day, all day long. And and that's how emotional eating caused me to get addicted to sugar. And the only way I was able to heal my emotional eating was to first understand why I was doing it, like get to the root of it, understand why I was doing it, why I started it. And then I had to figure out how to feel in control around it again. Because being addicted to a food, being an emotional eater is very different than um, being addicted to, like, drugs or some other addiction. Like, we have to eat, right? We have to eat. And so it's really a lot harder, um, when we are addicted to a food. And, um, and we're surrounded by it. It's everywhere, it's anywhere we go, we're surrounded by food. normally. And so that is why emotional eating and being addicted to a food is so much harder to break than some other addiction where you can just, get away from it. I hope that makes sense. Let me know. Um, so that's what I had to do. I had to figure out the root cause, like why I was emotionally eating. And then I had to take steps to feel in control around it again. And what I figured out for myself was my emotional eating stemmed from stress. I had started it when I was at a stressful time in my life. I was newly married, um, working, going to school, and I just felt like, I wasn't. Um, I just had more stress on me than, living at home with my parents or, just going to high school or whatever. So I think that was a big cause of it. And it was stressing me out knowing that like I'm a big girl now, I'm an adult, I have to do adult things. And that put a lot of stress on me, and I had a lot of emotions around that. And so that was my way of coping, was to just kind of drown my emotions and my stress in eating something that I really enjoyed. So I initially started eating sweets to calm me down when I felt stressed, um, which was pretty much every day in my early 20s. Um, and and that brings me to why most people start emotionally eating. And that is to deal with their stress and emotions, just like it was for me. That's really what I've found with working with so many people. That is really what it boils down to for most people. Um, it could be it could be that they started this habit when they went through a stressful time in their life. It could be when they were going through a very emotional time in their life or a traumatic time in their life. A lot of times people start things because they are dealing with some kind of traumatic event or trauma in their life. And and so that's why a lot, like some people go home and pour a glass of wine at night. And that is the root of that. That's what they started doing when they were going through that stressful time, that traumatic time, that emotional time. And that's why some people start smoking. They do it it's a coping mechanism. And that's why some of us eat when we're not hungry. We emotionally eat. It's to comfort ourselves and to feel good again. And and like I said, some people start emotionally eating after a life event. Um, it could be like after a death in your family. Like if you like trace your emotional eating back, you can probably figure out, okay, I started doing this when, you know, my mother got cancer, or so and so, I went to their funeral and it was really hard for me, or some other traumatic event or emotional event, or even just a stressful job or dealing with someone that was causing you a lot of stress. It could be anything, it could be so many things, but if you just trace it back and kind of look back at when you started, when your emotional eating started, then you can figure out, what the root of it was, what it was for you, what that started it. Um, so so it can really start to take take a take charge of our life, right? Like if we feel like we can't go without a food for a day or for very long, that can really start to interfere with our life and how we make decisions. And I had times, and it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but I had times where I would just not. I would not want to go somewhere because I didn't know if they would have like sweets, or I didn't think I could get through the whole night without eating sweets. Um, you know, I mean, that 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 is a sign of addiction. That is a sign that you are addicted to a food if you feel like you can't go very long without it. If you can't go a day without it, or, if you're used to having dessert after your dinner and you're invited somewhere and you don't know if they're going to have dessert. Well, you may just say, no, I don't want to go, or I'm busy, because you just don't feel like, you know, dealing with that. Cause I know when I wouldn't like get my fix of it, then I would feel moody. I would feel like I'm in a bad mood. I would be like snappy and, kind of rude. And so I just wouldn't want to even go or participate. And so if you guys feel that way, I'm going to give you some tips on what you can do to stop this emotional eating, stop this habit, and feel in control around these foods that you feel attached to, that you feel like you can't go without. So, um, let's talk about it. The first thing to do, uh, like I said, the first thing you could trace your steps back and say, okay, this was the time in my life when I started doing it. And part of that is to figure out what triggers you to emotionally eat. Like I had to trace it back to in my early 20s when I felt like, okay, I'm no longer like living under my parents' roof. I'm no longer just in high school. I'm like a big girl now. I'm married. I'm going to college. I'm working. And I just felt a lot of emotions and stress around that. Like I felt like, it's time to grow up. I had to grow up, and it just was stressful for me. And so that's what I traced mine back to. That's when I started all this emotional eating. And so now to this day, uh I know what triggers me now. Like I know my triggers, and that's the first thing, is to figure out what triggers your emotional eating. What um what in your life is triggering you to want to eat that? Um is it a certain emotion? Is it stress? What is it? Is it every time you see a certain person, or it could be anything that triggers it. Something you see on TV, something you see on social media could trigger you to emotionally eat. And so getting to that, figuring that out, getting to the root of that is going to really help you. So, when that comes up, you'll know, okay, this is when I start emotionally eating. And so I have a good example um, that I thought of when I was making my notes uh, on this live. And I don't know if you guys know of Mel Robbins, but she's written a couple books, and she's like um I don't know what you call her, she's a speaker and author. She teaches you how to like better your life, and get what you want, find your purpose, find meaning, and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, one of her books, and I don't remember. I've read two of her books, and one of her books, I remember her like counseling a woman, interviewing a woman. That this woman was having a hard time like figuring out what she wanted to do with her life. She felt like she was being held back and she just didn't know what it was. And so like Mel Robbins helped her really found out like what was holding her back. And what they ended up figuring out was she she was drinking a lot. She was drinking a lot, and I don't remember if it was wine or beer or what it was, but she started drinking a lot. And she kind of, when she started doing that, she stopped pursuing her dreams. She stopped pursuing her career that she wanted. And so they kept talking, and they figured out that when she had a boyfriend, and I don't know, like, I don't remember the details of like what was going on in their relationship or whatever, but she was living with a boyfriend, and she, ever since she had started dating him, um, he would come home from work, and I guess they would have a lot of tension and argue a lot and stuff when he got home from work. And so she figured out that when she would hear the garage door open, she knew he was coming home, that he was home, and that caused her a lot of anxiety. And that's when she would open a beer or have a glass of wine to calm her down, because she knew that they were getting ready to get into an argument. And so I thought that was very interesting and a very good example of, why someone starts emotionally eating or emotionally drinking. Um, that she figured out that her trigger was when she would hear that garage door open, it would cause her a lot of stress and anxiety. And that's when she started drinking. And so it can be the same when, for us with food, us emotional eaters, we, something like that may trigger us in our life that we don't realize. And that's what causes us to start snacking or to start, and that may be the reason we started, and now it's like out of control like it was for me. I started it, in my early 20s, and it got out of control, and then I was having it more than just, when I would be stressed or emotional. It was an addiction at that point. And I was having it, all day long. And so that's why we have to trace our steps back and figure out our triggers, figure out when this started. Why did it start? What were you feeling? You may have to journal on that. You may have to, meditate on that. Like, just get quiet and like try to remember what was it that started this emotional eating. And so, yeah, that's the first thing you need to do. And this is also what James Clear talks about in his book, Atomic Habits. I don't know if you guys have ever read that book, but I've read it at least twice, or I listen to audiobooks. That's what I do. But he says you have to get to the root of what triggers you to emotionally eat, to be able to heal that emotional eating, that addiction. So you have to figure out, is it when you're upset? Is that when you go to emotional eating? Is it when you can finally relax after a long day? If you have a stressful job, it may be that, oh my gosh, I can finally relax and I'm going to go enjoy this, whatever, this bag of chips or these cookies or this glass of wine. It's sometimes just to calm us down after a long day, a stressful day. Or is it when you sit down to watch TV at night? Like, is that your trigger to, hey, time to snack? I'm sitting down to watch TV and it's time to relax, and that's my trigger to eat a snack, even though I've already eaten dinner and I'm not hungry. That is my trigger. Watching TV is my trigger to um, to eating, to snacking. So figure out your trigger. That's the first step. And then the second step to breaking your emotional eating is to replace it with a different habit. So you you can't just quit your emotional eating cold turkey. I mean, you can try. I tried many times in the past, and that that is just setting you up for, you know, failing. Most people cannot just quit it cold turkey. You have to replace it with a different habit, with a more positive habit, with a habit that is going to serve you better than the emotional eating. So let me know if that makes sense. Um, and this habit cannot be food related. So don't say, I'm going to replace my ice cream habit with eating an apple at night. Don't do that. um, Replace your habit with a non-food habit. So, and it needs to be something that you look forward to, that you enjoy, that, it doesn't need to be like um, if you're not an outdoors person and you don't like walking, then don't replace your emotional eating habit with walking outside, because you're not going to stick with that. That's not going to be something that you enjoy, right? So you want to replace it with something that you enjoy. And that could be playing a game, playing a game on your phone, playing a game, like a board game with your family, something like that. Coloring. I love to color. Is so relaxing. It's really like meditation for me. So it gets your hands busy. It gets your mind off of the emotional eating, the wanting to snack, because you're thinking about coloring, you're thinking about playing the game, and your mind is off of that emotional eating. Um, and it can even be as small as, because maybe you're not at a place where you can get out a board game or something like that. Maybe you're out to eat, or at someone else's house. It could be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, and just feeling better after that, feeling more relaxed, feeling calm. Because if you're stressed and that's your trigger, then taking a few deep breaths will calm you down, make you feel less stressed, and then maybe you won't have that trigger to emotionally eat. So anything that you want to come up with, right? And I wanted to tell you, I thought of a great example when I was doing my notes for this live. For this, uh, I was gonna tell you that even if it's not like if you have another habit that you want to break, like that's non-food related, I have a great example for that too, because this works on any habit that you want to break. It doesn't have to be food. So my husband, he's always been like a nail biter, and he wanted to stop biting his nails. And so he was like, what can I do? He, taking my advice, trying to replace the nail biting with something more positive. And he thought, oh, something that I could do that I will keep up with and stay consistent with was he bought one of those, he bought a couple of those, what do you call them? The grip strengtheners, those things that you squeeze that strengthen your grip. Um, Anyways, he bought a couple of those off of Amazon, and he noticed, like, he found the trigger. So he bites his nails when he gets stressed, or when he's like thinking about something, like deep thinking or whatever. And a lot of times that happens when he's on his way home from work or on his way to work, like just thinking about the day, what happened, what he needs to do, all these things. And he would bite his nails. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to buy some of these grip strengtheners. And he keeps one in his car and he keeps one in the house. And every time, uh, he starts thinking about work or something going on and he feels a little stressed, he instead, if he gets that, if he puts his hands to his mouth, he's like, nope. And he keeps it in the door of his car and he grabs his little um hand grip strengthener. And so I think after a couple weeks he was not biting his nails anymore. Like, he's trimming them every week now. He does not bite his nails anymore. And so that's a great example of something that you want to stop this habit. And he found his trigger and he replaced it with something that was better, that was going to serve him better than biting his nails. So figure out what you can do, what you would enjoy, what you could be consistent with instead of the emotional eating. So those are my two tips for you. Figure out your trigger. Figure out what caused you to start emotional eating. Figure out what triggers you to want to snack, to want to emotionally eat, and then replace it with a more positive habit. And arm yourself with that. Don't just wing it. Like, have you 1, 2, 3 things that you can do that you enjoy doing instead of snacking. So when you start getting triggered to emotionally eat, then you have those go-to things. And if it is playing a game or coloring or whatever it is, have that stuff available so you can do that instead. So you can try that instead. And just come up with what you're going to do. So I really hope these helped you. I hope they give you some ideas, and these strategies may take some time. For some it may take a couple weeks. For others it may take a few months. To really feel like you've broken this habit. And so I don't want you to beat yourself up if you mess up, or if you don't stay consistent, or if you give in to your trigger and emotionally eat. Don't beat yourself up. Just move on and try again. And that's all. The more we can just do that and not like beat ourselves up about it, and you know just make ourselves feel bad about it. Like, the more we can just be like, well, I messed up, nothing I can do now, but move on. I'm just going to try again. I'm just going to um, try again tomorrow, try again the next time. If we can do that, we will start to be more consistent. We will start to feel better about it. It will become easier. So just don't beat yourself up and just keep trying. Don't give up. Okay. Um, and, eventually it will stick and these will become your new habits. And so, guys, if you are needing more direction on this, if you feel like, okay, I need some more support with this, I don't know my triggers. I need help with figuring out my triggers. I need help with coming up with, some personalized ways I can, fix this habit, reverse this habit, create a new habit, a healthier habit. This is what I help people with. I help people with, um, you know, overcoming these old habits that they don't want, that are not serving their lives or their health. And creating these new habits that are serving them, that will serve them, that they feel better with. So that's what I do for people. And I can help you get to the root of your emotional eating and give you personalized strategies to overcome it if you're interested. And when you do this, you will feel more in control around your favorite foods, and be able to enjoy them occasionally. That's what I did for myself. That's what I do for my clients. We, we, I give them strategies to help them overcome these habits and these addictions, and then they feel in control around their favorite foods, and they're still able to enjoy them on occasion, not every day, but on occasion, and they feel in control again. And that's the most important thing, is that you feel in control of, you know, around your favorite foods, right? So it's not controlling you, but you're controlling yourself around them, right? Um, so if you want to feel that way, if you need help with that, I want you to let me know in the comments, reach out to me. If you're interested in having a conversation about this, about your specific emotional eating, I would be glad to book a call with you, or chat with you in the DMs about it, and really figure out your triggers and what will help you the most. Um, so if you are interested in that, just reach out to me. You can just put help me, or help or whatever in the comments, and or DM me. A lot of people just DM me because they don't want to leave a comment. You can feel free to DM me, and we can have a chat about it and figure out what your triggers are and how to help you. So, all right. I appreciate you tuning in today, and I will see you next week. I hope you have a great week. Bye.